Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Have you ever heard of this thing called the 100th monkey phenomenon?
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
Whether it's actual science or more of a metaphor, it paints this picture, right? Once enough individuals learn something new, that knowledge just spreads, almost mysteriously.
It does. And it's a great starting point for what we're talking about today because it echoes this larger truth about us, about human evolution.
How knowledge doesn't just, sit there, it does something.
Exactly. It catalyzes change. It transforms us, not just our tools, but who we fundamentally are. It's always been this dance between learning something new and becoming something new.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to explore how knowledge has really fueled these big human transformations, from our earliest beginnings right up to, right now, where things are moving incredibly fast.
Right.
And we're going to tackle a really provocative idea, this concept that humanity might be on the verge of becoming Homo Machina.
And we're grounding this discussion in some fascinating material you shared excerpts from Becoming Homo Machina, Humanity's Digital Evolution. Specifically, Dr. Dennis V. Burke's essay, Becoming Homo Machina.
Right.
And when Dr. Burke uses that term, Homo Machina, he's really pushing us to think about a future where that line between our biology and our technology gets blurry, really blurry.
Not just the tools we use externally.
No, potentially blurring who we actually are. It's a deep look at our past to understand where we might be going, and it definitely sounds a note of caution about, how we proceed.
Yeah, what jumped out at me immediately from Burke's essay is the core question it forces on us. As we start evolving beyond pure biology, are we the ones guiding the technology?
Or is it starting to guide us?
Exactly. And he really emphasizes needing to pause to actually reflect on what being human means in this age of incredible machines.
It's such a critical question. Because if we just charge ahead without thinking,
we might lose something vital without even realizing it.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's trace this back, way back, to humanity's first great leap. Dr. Burke paints this picture of our ancestors, early humans living as foragers.
Right, small nomadic bands.
Life was just a constant struggle, wasn't it? Against predators, weather, hunger, even each other sometimes. Just relentless day-to-day survival.
Imagine that. Every day focused purely on finding food, staying safe, constantly moving. But then something shifted, something huge.
The knowledge.
Yes, a critical number of people figured out how to domesticate animals, how to cultivate crops. And this wasn't just, a handy new trick. It was a complete game changer.
It really was profound. That knowledge basically freed humanity from just surviving moment to moment. It wasn't only about having more reliable food.
No, it led to agriculture, yes, but then to surplus. And the most critical thing surplus gave us.
Time.
Time. Exactly. Suddenly there was time to think beyond the next meal, time to build, innovate, create, wonder, connect differently.
And that time became the foundation for pretty much everything else, right?
Absolutely. People could settle down, communities grew, you get specialization, complex social structures start forming. Then comes art, philosophy, governance.
All sprouting from that single seed of knowledge.
Yeah.
How to grow food. It's kind of mind-blowing that civilization in all its complexity grew from that.
It truly is.
Yeah.
And reflecting on how one breakthrough reshaped us makes you very cautious when considering what future breakthroughs might do.
Okay, but here's where Dr. Burke throws in something really fascinating and frankly a bit sobering, especially as we think about Homo Machina.
Right.
It's this fact that most people don't realize. Homo sapiens, us, we weren't alone. For a huge chunk of our history, Earth had multiple human species living at the same time.
Yeah, at least half a dozen different Homo species coexisted at various points. It completely changes that simple linear picture of evolution we often have.
We think it was just us marching forward.
But the family tree was much bushier. We had cousins all over the place. We weren't the only intelligent hominins figuring things out.
Like the Neanderthals, probably the most famous ones. They were around for, almost 300,000 years across Europe, Western Asia.
And doing pretty well. They had sophisticated tools, control fire. There's evidence they buried their dead, maybe even had symbolic thought.
And the genetics now show we actually interbred with them. Our histories are tangled.
Definitely. Then you have the Denisovans, much more mysterious, mostly known from DNA found in a Siberian cave.
Right, not many fossils.
Very few.
Yeah.
But their genetic legacy shows up in modern populations in Southeast Asia and Oceania. So they were widespread too, interacting with other groups.
And then there's the Hobbit. Homo floresiensis, these tiny humans like 3.5 feet tall on an island in Indonesia.
And they survived until maybe 50,000 years ago. That's long after our own species, Homo sapiens, had left Africa and was spreading out. Imagine encountering them.
It's incredible. And there are others, like Homo naledi in South Africa. They had this weird mix of primitive and modern features.
And that evidence from the Rising Star Cave, deliberately placing bodies deep inside, that really challenged ideas about early cognition and ritual behavior.
Plus the more recent finds, like Homo luzonensis in the Philippines. It just adds to this picture of incredible diversity, different kinds of humans adapted to different environments.
But here's the really unsettling part. Despite all that diversity, despite their intelligence, their adaptations, they all vanished.
Every single one, except us.
Only Homo sapiens survived. Which forces us to ask a really crucial question, especially now. Why? What happened to them? And what can we learn from that?
Well, the theories are complex, right? Maybe we had slightly better cognitive abilities like language or abstract thought.
Or larger social networks, maybe more sophisticated tools. Perhaps we were just more adaptable to climate shifts. It's probably a mix of factors.
But the lesson Dr. Burke highlights is stark. It's a sobering precedent.
Yes, survival isn't guaranteed, not even for smart, successful species.
And connecting that back, as we stand here, contemplating becoming Homo Machina.
That lesson hits hard. It's a reminder that just because we're advanced, just because we're clever, doesn't mean our particular version of humanity is permanent. It urges that caution again.
Okay, so that first leap was about mastering the physical world, freeing our bodies. What happens next? When humanity's focus shifts inward to the mind and then outward again, but into the digital.
This is where Dr. Burke talks about accelerated evolution. The age of the mind. Look at us now. You and I, we live in these huge cities. We expect comfort, long lives, relative safety.
We've built systems, laws, social contracts, infrastructure that shield us from that constant edge of survival existence our ancestors face.
Right. And with that shield, with that freedom from immediate physical threats, the human mind just exploded. It turned inward, upward.
Inventing medicine, mapping genomes, splitting atoms.
Creating the internet. And think about the brain itself. It uses something like 20% of our body's energy, even though it's tiny by weight.
That tells you something about its importance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We pour resources into our minds, supercharging our ability to think, create, design. We've literally become designers of realities.
And now, Burke argues, we're hitting this exponential part of the curve, a technological threshold that's totally different. Our definition is shifting. It's less about what we make with our hands.
And more about what we code, compute, connect. Our tools aren't just physical anymore. Hammers and plows are replaced by algorithms, microchips, neural networks, things operating at speeds and scales we can barely comprehend.
It's a massive shift. We have machines making music now, writing poetry, diagnosing diseases better than doctors in some cases.
Mimicking conversations so well it's sometimes hard to tell, which brings us right back to that paradox of control.
Are we steering the ship?
Or are we becoming passengers? Burke makes this critical point. Machine intelligence is borrowed. Its purpose is seeded by us. We're both the architects and potentially the unwitting apprentices.
It's not just some future sci-fi scenario, is it? It's happening in small ways already. Am I choosing to check my phone? Or has the phone conditioned me to check it? Is it guiding me?
That's the question.
Think about the contrasts. Stone tools, now drones. Cave paintings, now cloud uploads. Fire, now microwaves. Tribe, now network. Voice, now code. The speed is just staggering.
And this incredible acceleration brings us to what Dr. Burke sees as the core danger, what he calls the loss of the human thread.
Okay.
For ages, we've thought of self-awareness as our defining trait. The ability to reflect, regret, imagine, make ethical choices. Not just because we have to, but because we can.
Our conscience, our inner life.
Exactly. But what happens, Burke asks, when that mirror we hold up to ourselves is slowly, subtly replaced by a screen?
That's a powerful image, and you see it everywhere. We're tethered to our phones. We live these parallel digital lives. We outsource so much.
The mirror is a big one.
Yeah.
How many phone numbers do you actually know anymore? Directions. We just ask the device.
We communicate in emojis, argue behind avatars. Our identities can feel more digital than physical sometimes.
So as we continue merging with these machines, first holding them, then maybe embedding them in our thoughts, perhaps eventually in our bodies, what happens to the basics? Empathy. Being truly present with someone. Shared physical experience.
Will future generations still feel genuine awe looking at the stars? Or inside a magnificent old building? Or will awe just become another sensation you can simulate or download?
It sounds dramatic, but that's the heart of the caution.
And Burke's warning is really direct here. He says the real danger isn't the technology itself. It's not about killer robots.
No, it's in the fading of connection, the loss of silence, of the subtle glances of hands held. It's the human stuff.
When our interactions become just transactions, optimized for efficiency, when our choices are increasingly made by predictive algorithms.
Then humanity itself, the messy, inefficient, beautifully complex version of it, risks becoming, as he puts it, a relic of its own invention. We might optimize ourselves right out of existence, in a way.
Losing the very things that made us human in the first place.
And this is where that lesson from the other hominins comes back, isn't it? It's not about stopping progress. That's probably impossible, maybe not even desirable. It's about being intensely aware of the potential cost.
What we might be trading away.
Yes. What irreplaceable human nuances are we sacrificing for efficiency or convenience? If we aren't consciously protecting those things, they could just fade away, leaving us with something technically advanced maybe, but ultimately hollow.
Which leads to Burke describing us as a species on the brink, living in this time of intense contradiction.
Totally. We argue about climate change while the planet literally burns and floods. We debate what's true while drowning in information, much of it misinformation.
We lose ancient cultures, languages, species. We're busy scrolling and consuming.
It's a really stark picture. And Burke suggests that maybe some future version of us, a true Homo Machina, might look back at this moment, our moment, with a kind of quiet irony.
Wondering if we saw it coming.
Wondering if we ever really had control. Or if merging with machines was just a trajectory we were on, not a conscious choice we fully understood or debated. Wondering if we saw the edge of the abyss before we just tumbled in.
Because that's the metaphor he uses. We are standing at the edge of an abyss.
And that forces the ultimate choice, maybe the most important choice of our era. Do we just leap, hoping for the best?
Do we let ourselves fall, seduced by the power, the convenience?
Or do we pause, really truly pause, and ask ourselves, collectively and individually, what does it mean to be human now? What kind of future do we actually want to build?
And importantly, Burke's essay doesn't say the answer is to smash the machines or run back to the caves. That's not the point.
No, not at all. The path forward, he suggests, is about reclaiming our humanity within them. It's about finding ways to use these incredible tools without losing ourselves.
Asserting our values, our agency, choosing not just what we can create technologically,
but choosing who we wish to become as humans, as a species.
It puts the responsibility squarely back on us.
Yes. As Burke concludes so powerfully, the future is not written by silicon or by code. It is written still, for now, by us.
That's a call for awareness, for caution, for very conscious choices.
It really is a profound responsibility. So maybe we leave you, our listeners, with this thought to mull over. In your own life today, what small, subtle human connection might you be trading away for digital convenience? And what could that seemingly small choice mean for the Homo Machina of tomorrow?
Something to think about.
Definitely. Think about it, and we'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.